Ever feel like you're just going through the motions at work? Like you're putting in the hours, but not really getting anywhere meaningful?
Yeah, I think a lot of people experience that, and it can be pretty demotivating.
For sure. So what's the key to actually feeling like you're making progress and growing in your career?
Well, a big part of it is having a solid performance management system in place.
Okay, so when you say performance management, what exactly do you mean?
It's more than just those yearly reviews, the ones that everyone dreads.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Those can be tough.
It's really an ongoing process, a way to make sure everyone's efforts are aligned with the company's goals.
Okay, so it's about making sure everyone's pulling in the same direction.
Exactly. And it's a two-way street. It's not just the company dictating what you need to do.
So it's a collaboration between the employee and the manager.
Precisely. When it's done right, performance management empowers you to take ownership of your work, identify areas where you want to grow, and actually have a voice in shaping your career path.
That sounds a lot more appealing than just being told what to do and then getting judged on it once a year.
Yeah, it's definitely a more proactive and empowering approach. So let's break it down a bit. What are the key elements of performance management?
I'm all ears.
Well, it all starts with goal setting.
All right, so goals? That seems pretty straightforward.
Sure, but we're not talking about vague aspirations here. We're talking about SMART goals.
Smart goals. What makes them so smart?
It's an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, so each goal needs to meet all of those criteria.
Right. A clearly defined goal is much more likely to actually be achieved. Think about it. Instead of saying, I want to increase sales, a SMART goal would be something like, I will increase sales by 10% in the next quarter by implementing a new customer outreach strategy.
I see. So you're removing the ambiguity and creating a roadmap for action.
Exactly. And that clarity benefits both you and your manager. You know exactly what you're aiming for, and your manager can provide targeted support and easily track your progress.
That makes a lot of sense. So once the goals are set, what happens next?
Well, this is where continuous feedback comes into play.
So we're not just waiting until the end of the year to see if we hit those goals.
Definitely not. Continuous feedback means having regular check-ins with your manager, both formal and informal, to discuss your progress, address any challenges that come up, and celebrate the wins along the way.
So it's more of an ongoing dialogue rather than that one big, sometimes scary evaluation at the end of the year.
Exactly. Imagine you're working on a challenging project and you hit a roadblock. Instead of struggling in silence until your annual review, you can flag the issue early on, get guidance from your manager, and maybe adjust your approach.
That sounds a lot more productive and a lot less stressful.
It is. And on the flip side, let's say you implemented a new strategy that's yielding great results. You can share that success with your manager and get recognition for your initiative.
I can see how that would help boost morale and keep everyone motivated.
Exactly. Continuous feedback creates a culture of open communication and allows for course correction throughout the year, which ultimately increases the chances of reaching those SMART goals we talked about.
So how do those dreaded performance reviews fit into this continuous feedback model? Are they still necessary?
They are, but when done right, they become less about judgment and more about collaborative reflection. It's a chance to step back with your manager, assess what worked well, identify areas for improvement, and set goals for the future.
So it's more of a two-way conversation than a one-sided critique?
Exactly. Let's say you're a software developer. In a performance review, you and your manager would not only discuss the projects you completed, but you'd also delve into things like your problem-solving approach, your collaboration skills, or areas where you'd like to develop further. It's about understanding your strengths and crafting a plan for growth.
I'm starting to see how this shifts the power dynamic in a positive way. The employee has a real voice in shaping their own development path.
That's the goal. And this leads us to another crucial component of performance management, development plans.
Development plan. So this is where we actually map out how to achieve those goals we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Development plans give you a framework for turning aspirations into actionable steps.
Okay, so it's about getting specific.
Exactly. It's about identifying the skills you want to cultivate, the knowledge you need to acquire, and the experiences that will help you grow.
So it's not just about fixing weaknesses, it's also about strategically developing your strengths.
Yes, and pursuing those interests that benefit both you and the company, right?
Okay, I like that. So for example,
Let's say you're a marketing whiz, right? You excel at creative brainstorming, but maybe struggle with the analytical side of things.
I know a few people like that.
A development plan could involve maybe taking some data analysis courses, shadowing a colleague in the analytics department, or even leading a project that requires you to use those analytical skills.
Ah, so you're getting hands-on experience while you're learning.
Exactly.
So it's about bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to be.
Yeah. And keeping the company's needs in mind, too, of course.
Right, of course. So in this whole process, is the employee just passively waiting for the company to tell them what to do?
Not at all. You have a big role to play in shaping your own development plan.
Okay, good to know.
Don't be afraid to voice your aspirations, maybe suggest some training programs that you're interested in, or seek out mentorship opportunities that align with your goals.
So it's about taking ownership of your own development.
Exactly. Be proactive. Have those sometimes difficult conversations with your manager about what you want to achieve.
Because they're not mind readers.
Right. Your manager's there to guide and support you, but they need to know what you're aiming for. And just expressing your desire to grow can go a long way. It shows initiative.
Shows that you're invested.
Yeah, that you're committed to continuous improvement.
You've mentioned the importance of feedback throughout this conversation, and it seems like a key part of this whole process. But how can anyone get better at receiving feedback, especially when it's not all positive?
That's a great question. It's natural to feel defensive when we get constructive criticism.
I know I do.
But remember that feedback is an opportunity to grow, even if it's a little tough to hear at first.
So it's about shifting your perspective.
Yeah. Instead of feeling judged, see it as a chance to learn and improve.
Easier said than done, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Any practical tips on navigating those tough feedback conversations?
Absolutely. First off, active listening is crucial.
Okay, so really paying attention.
Yes. When you're receiving feedback, resist the urge to interrupt or start planning your defense in your head.
So no knee-jerk reactions.
Right. Really listen to what your manager is saying, ask clarifying questions if you need to, and try to see things from their perspective.
So I could ask things like, can you give me a specific example?
Hmm.
Or what would you suggest I do differently next time?
Exactly. That shows you're taking the feedback seriously.
Shows you're engaged.
You're genuinely interested in improving.
And what if I just flat out disagree with the feedback? Is it okay to push back?
Absolutely. It's important to have an open and honest dialogue. If you disagree with a point, express your perspective respectfully. Maybe provide specific examples to support your view.
So be prepared to back it up.
The goal is not to win an argument, it's to find common ground and work together towards a solution.
Make it a productive conversation.
Right. And even if you don't agree with everything, try to extract some value from it. Ask yourself, is there any truth to what they're saying? Can I learn something from this?
Even if it's not 100% on target.
Sometimes that outside perspective can help you see blind spots.
Give you a new angle.
Yeah, help you tweak your approach.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Feedback's a powerful tool for self-awareness and growth, but it only works if we're open to receiving it. So we've covered goal setting, continuous feedback, performance reviews, development plans. What about recognition and rewards?
Yeah, where does that fit into all of this?
Well, you're right. It's largely driven by the company's culture and policies, but there's a crucial aspect of recognition that we often forget about.
And that is...
Recognizing ourselves.
Oh, wait, what? Recognizing ourselves.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and forget to acknowledge our own accomplishments.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
But celebrating our wins, big or small, is so important for keeping us motivated and maintaining a positive mindset.
So you're saying we should take time to actually pat ourselves on the back?
Exactly. Try incorporating a really simple practice. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you accomplished that day that you're proud of.
Even if they seem small.
Especially if they seem small. It's about shifting your focus to the positive, acknowledging your contributions.
So like finally finish that presentation or helped a colleague troubleshoot that tech issue. Okay, I can do that.
It's all about recognizing those small wins that pave the way to bigger accomplishments.
Makes sense.
Recognizing our own achievements, it not only boosts our confidence, but also helps us identify our strengths.
So we can play to those strengths in the future.
Precisely. And that self-awareness is super valuable when you're setting future goals.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've really debunked the myth that performance management is just a bureaucratic HR nightmare.
I'm glad you think so.
It can be a really positive and empowering process.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about the individual's role in performance management, but what about the company's responsibility? What can organizations do to create a culture that really supports this whole growth and development thing?
Well, it's not enough to just have a system in place, like check the box and we're done.
Right.
It needs to be part of the company's DNA,
Yeah.
Supported by leadership, nurtured by a culture that truly values continuous improvement.
So it's a company-wide mindset, not just a
Yeah.
bunch of forms to fill out.
Exactly, and leadership plays a big role in setting that tone, right?
Right.
Because if managers just see performance management as another HR task, well, that attitude's going to trickle down to their teams.
Yeah, people can sense that.
But if leaders actually champion this growth mindset and really engage in the process,
It makes a difference.
it creates a completely different dynamic.
So lead by example.
Exactly. Leaders need to show that they value performance management, not just as a way to measure results, but as a tool for helping their employees develop and reach their potential.
So what are some concrete ways leaders can foster this growth-oriented approach?
Well, one powerful way is to make performance conversations a regular part of their interactions.
Okay.
Not just during those formal reviews, but, in everyday conversations, just checking in. They can provide specific feedback.
Both positive and constructive.
Exactly, and celebrate those wins, big or small.
So weaving it into the fabric of daily work life.
Exactly. It shouldn't be this separate, isolated process. It's an ongoing dialogue.
Focused on improvement and support.
Right.
What about resources? What can companies provide to help make their system really effective?
Training is crucial, I think, both for managers and employees,
Okay.
on things like how to give and receive feedback effectively, how to set SMART goals, the things we've been talking about.
How to have those sometimes tricky performance conversations.
Exactly. And even experienced managers can benefit from refreshers or, new perspectives on best practices.
So companies should invest in workshops, online courses, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just training, right? Companies also need to provide the right tools and resources.
So what kind of tools are we talking about?
This could be anything from performance management software that tracks goals and feedback to access to online learning platforms, mentorship programs,
Okay.
or even just dedicated time for development activities.
It seems like there's a whole ecosystem of resources that can help.
It really is.
But can even the best system thrive in a toxic or overly competitive environment?
That's a really important point. Performance management can't exist in a vacuum. It needs to be supported by the right culture.
Okay, so what are some hallmarks of a company culture that really embraces performance management?
Well, transparency is key.
Okay.
Employees need to understand the company's goals, how their work contributes to those goals, what's expected of them.
Right, it can't be a guessing game.
Exactly. Everyone should be on the same page, working together towards that common goal. And feedback should be a two-way street.
Okay.
Employees should feel comfortable giving feedback to their managers, just as managers provide feedback to them.
So it's about creating that safe space for open communication.
Yeah, where everyone feels safe to share their ideas, their concerns, without fear of.
Retribution.
Exactly.
And of course, we need to celebrate those successes, right?
Absolutely. A healthy dose of positive reinforcement goes a long way, whether it's a thank you note or a shout out in a team meeting.
It all makes a difference.
Celebrating those wins is crucial for maintaining motivation and creating a positive work environment.
I think this has been a really eye-opening conversation. We've debunked the myth that performance management is just a bureaucratic HR process.
Glad to hear that.
When it's done right, it's about so much more.
It really is.
It's about creating a workplace where everyone feels supported and empowered to reach their full potential.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, I hope you found this conversation as valuable as I did. Take what we've discussed and apply it to your own work lives. Remember that performance management can be a powerful tool for creating a more fulfilling and successful work experience.